Right now, you're holding something that changes everything. Not just your perspective, not just your beliefs, your actual reality. The Kybalion isn't an ancient relic gathering dust on some philosopher's shelf. It's the operating manual for the world you're living in right this second. Think about this for a moment. You've been playing a game your entire life without knowing the rules. You've wondered why some people seem to have life figured out while others struggle with the same problems over and over. You've noticed patterns, how your thoughts seem to manifest, how certain people attract opportunities like magnets, how everything in your life feels connected in ways you can't quite explain. The 7 principles we're about to explore aren't mystical theories. They're the mechanics behind what you've already been experiencing. They explain why meditation works, why visualization creates results, why your mindset literally shapes your circumstances. Modern science is finally catching up to what was written thousands of years ago. The first principle: mentalism. Everything is mind. The universe itself is mental. This sounds abstract until you look around you. Your phone, your car, the building you're in, everything started as a thought in someone's mind. But here's what most people miss. Your personal reality works exactly the same way. Your thoughts aren't just random electrical impulses in your brain. They're creative forces. Every single thing in your life, your job, your relationships, your health, your financial situation, began as patterns in your consciousness. The problem is, most people think unconsciously. They're like gardeners who scatter seeds randomly and then wonder why their garden looks chaotic. But once you understand that your mind is the architect of your experience, everything changes. You stop being a victim of circumstances and become the designer of your reality. This isn't positive thinking or wishful fantasy. It's understanding how consciousness actually operates. The second principle: correspondence. As above, so below. As below, so above. Your inner world reflects your outer world perfectly. If there's chaos in your external life, there's chaos in your internal landscape. If you find peace within, peace manifests around you. Watch this principle in action. Notice how people who are internally anxious create external drama. Observe how those with inner confidence navigate life smoothly. Your consciousness is like a radio station broadcasting a signal, and reality tunes into your frequency. This means you can diagnose your internal state by looking at your external circumstances. Your relationships mirror your relationship with yourself. Your financial situation reflects your beliefs about worth and abundance. Your health corresponds to your emotional patterns. It's all connected because it's all one system. The third principle: vibration. Nothing rests. Everything moves. Everything vibrates. This isn't metaphysical speculation anymore. Quantum physics confirms it. But here's the practical application. Your emotions are frequencies, and you attract experiences that match your vibrational state. Fear vibrates at a specific frequency. So does love, anger, gratitude, and excitement. When you're consistently vibrating at the frequency of fear, you magnetize fearful experiences. When you shift to gratitude, you attract more to be grateful for. This isn't magic, it's mechanics. Most people live at the mercy of their emotional reactions. They let external circumstances determine their internal frequency. But when you understand vibration, you realize you can choose your frequency consciously. You can tune yourself like an instrument to attract the experiences you actually want. Think about people you know who seem naturally lucky. They're not special. They're just vibrating at frequencies that align with opportunity and success. You can learn to do the same thing deliberately. Here's what's happening right now as you listen to this. You're beginning to see the architecture behind your experience. You're recognizing patterns you've lived with but never understood. This recognition itself is changing your frequency. You're starting to operate from knowledge rather than confusion. The ancient wisdom is becoming your modern toolkit. These aren't philosophical concepts to contemplate. They're operational principles you can apply immediately. Every thought you think, every emotion you feel, every action you take is either strengthening the reality you want or reinforcing the one you're trying to change. Your awakening doesn't happen tomorrow when you've read enough books or taken enough courses. It's happening now, in this moment, as you begin to see how everything actually works. The game hasn't changed. You're just finally learning the rules. Now that you see the first 3 principles working in your life, let's dive deeper into the mechanics that most people never discover. The next 4 principles reveal why some people seem to effortlessly navigate challenges while others get stuck in endless loops. The 4th principle, polarity. Everything has 2 sides. Everything has its pair of opposites. Hot and cold aren't separate things. They're different degrees of the same phenomenon. The same applies to your life situations. Your biggest problem contains your greatest opportunity. They're not opposites. They're different poles of the same experience. When you understand this, you stop fighting your challenges and start transmuting them. That financial struggle, it's teaching you about value and resourcefulness. That difficult relationship, it's showing you exactly what you need to heal within yourself. The master doesn't try to eliminate the negative pole. They learn to slide along the scale toward the positive one. You can't have courage without the possibility of fear. You can't experience love without understanding separation. The poles give meaning to each other. Watch how this works. Someone loses their job and calls it a disaster. Another person loses their job and calls it freedom to find their true calling. Same event, different pole, completely different reality. You choose which end of the scale you focus on. The fifth principle, rhythm. Everything flows. Everything has tides. Your life operates in cycles, periods of expansion followed by periods of contraction, times of action followed by times of rest. Most people resist this natural rhythm and exhaust themselves fighting the current. But when you understand rhythm, you work with these cycles instead of against them. During the inward quiet phases, you prepare and gather energy. During the outward active phases, you execute and create. You stop taking the low periods personally and stop burning out during the high periods. Think about successful people you admire. They don't maintain the same intensity all the time. They have seasons, times for learning, times for building, times for harvesting, times for resting. They dance with the rhythm instead of trying to control it. Technical moment. If what you're hearing right now resonates with you, hit subscribe. This shows that the information is valuable. The sixth principle, cause and effect. Every cause has an effect. Every effect has a cause. Nothing happens by accident. What's happening in your life right now is the effect of causes you set in motion through your past thoughts, words, and actions. And what you're thinking and doing right now is creating the causes for your future effects. This principle destroys the victim mentality completely. You're not at the mercy of random circumstances. You're living in the results of your previous choices. But here's the empowering part. Since you created these effects, you can create different ones. Most people live at the effect level, reacting to what shows up in their lives. But when you understand causation, you start operating at the cause level. You become deliberate about what you think, intentional about what you say, conscious about what you do. The seventh principle, gender. Every phenomenon contains both masculine and feminine principles. The masculine is the projective, creative, initiating force. The feminine is the receptive, nurturing, manifesting force. You need both to create anything real. This isn't about biological gender. It's about creative polarity. Ideas without action remain fantasies. Action without ideas becomes meaningless, busy work. The masculine conceives, the feminine receives and gives birth to the conception. In your own consciousness, you need both principles active. The masculine aspect generates the vision, makes the plans, takes the initiative. The feminine aspect receives the vision, nurtures it into form, brings it into physical reality. Most people are imbalanced. They're either all masculine energy, constantly pushing and forcing, or all feminine energy, waiting for things to happen to them. Integration means learning to initiate when it's time to initiate, and receive when it's time to receive. These 7 principles aren't separate laws. They're different aspects of how consciousness operates. They work together like instruments in an orchestra. When you understand all seven and learn to apply them consciously, you're no longer stumbling around in the dark. You're working with the fundamental forces that shape reality itself. Modern science keeps discovering what the ancients already knew. Quantum entanglement mirrors the principle of correspondence. Wave-particle duality reflects polarity. The observer effect demonstrates mentalism. We're not dealing with outdated mysticism. We're dealing with cutting-edge understanding presented in timeless language. Your life is about to change because your understanding is changing. You're moving from unconscious participation in these principles to conscious application of them. Instead of being subject to these laws, you're learning to work with them deliberately. This is your awakening, not some distant spiritual achievement, but right now, as you recognize the patterns that have been operating in your life all along. Everything you've just learned isn't theory anymore. It's your new operating manual. The question isn't whether these principles are true. You've been living them your entire life without realizing it. The question is, what are you going to do with this understanding now? Let's get practical. Right now, scan your current reality. Look at your relationships, your work, your health, your finances. What you see is the perfect reflection of how you've been unconsciously applying these principles. Every situation in your life is your consciousness made visible. That relationship that keeps repeating the same patterns. You've been vibrating at the frequency that attracts exactly that dynamic. That career situation that feels stuck. Your internal beliefs about your worth and capabilities are being mirrored perfectly in your external circumstances. But here's what changes everything. Now you see the mechanism. You understand that you're not trapped by your circumstances. You're creating them through your consistent mental and emotional patterns. And if you created them unconsciously, you can recreate them consciously. Start with mentalism. Every morning when you wake up, instead of immediately reacting to what's happening around you, remember, everything is mind. Your day is going to be shaped by the mental frequency you choose to operate from. Are you going to think from limitation or possibility? Are you going to focus on problems or solutions? This isn't about forced positivity. It's about conscious choice. When challenges arise, and they will, you now know they're not happening to you. They're happening through you. Your consciousness is using these situations to show you something important about your internal patterns. Apply correspondence daily. When you notice external chaos, instead of trying to control everyone and everything around you, go internal. What's chaotic in your own mind? What needs to be brought into order within your own consciousness? Fix the internal and watch the external shift automatically. Use vibration strategically. Throughout your day, check your frequency. What emotion are you broadcasting? Remember, you're a walking radio station, and reality is responding to your signal. If you don't like what you're attracting, change your frequency. This means taking responsibility for your emotional state. Not because you should always feel good, but because you now understand that your feelings are creative forces. Anger, when channeled consciously, becomes power for change. Fear, when understood, becomes wisdom about what needs attention. Work with polarity instead of against it. When you face a difficult situation, immediately look for the opposite pole. What opportunity is hidden in this problem? What strength is this weakness trying to develop? Instead of being the victim of circumstances, become the alchemist who transmutes lead into gold. Honor rhythm in your life. Stop trying to be productive and energetic all the time. There are seasons for planting and seasons for harvesting. Seasons for action and seasons for reflection. When you align with natural cycles instead of fighting them, everything becomes easier. Operate from cause rather than effect. Before you react to what's happening around you, pause and remember, you are the cause of your experience. What thoughts, beliefs, and actions created this situation? What different causes can you set in motion right now to create different effects? Integrate both masculine and feminine principles. Have a vision and take action toward it. Receive inspiration and nurture it into manifestation. Stop being imbalanced, either forcing everything to happen or waiting passively for life to happen to you. Here's what's really happening. You're remembering who you actually are. Not a powerless victim of random circumstances, but a conscious creator working with universal principles. The ancient masters weren't special people with magical powers. They were ordinary people who understood these same principles you're learning right now. Your transformation doesn't require years of meditation or studying. It requires applying what you now know. Every conversation you have, every decision you make, every thought you think, you can now do consciously instead of automatically. Watch how people respond to you differently as your frequency changes. Notice how opportunities start appearing as your vibration shifts. Observe how external situations begin organizing themselves as your internal state becomes more coherent. This isn't about perfection. You'll forget these principles sometimes. You'll get caught up in old patterns. That's part of the rhythm. What matters is that you now have a map. You can find your way back to conscious creation whenever you get lost in unconscious reaction. The ancient wisdom is now your modern toolkit. Every situation in your life becomes an opportunity to apply these principles. Every challenge becomes a chance to practice conscious creation Every day becomes an experiment in working with the fundamental laws of reality. If this video has shifted something in you, write in the comments, "I choose conscious creation." Write it as your promise to yourself that you're ready to live from understanding rather than confusion. You're standing at a threshold right now. Behind you is the old way of living, reacting to circumstances, feeling powerless, wondering why things happen to you. Ahead of you is conscious participation in the creation of your reality. The Kybalion wasn't written for ancient mystics. It was written for you, right now, in this moment of human evolution. We're living through the greatest shift in consciousness our species has ever experienced. Technology is showing us that everything is connected. Science is proving that consciousness shapes reality. The ancient wisdom is becoming common knowledge, but knowledge without application remains powerless. The principles you've learned today work only when you work with them. Start small. Choose one principle and practice it for the next week. Watch how your reality responds to your conscious participation. Remember, you're not trying to escape the world. You're learning to create consciously within it. These principles don't take you away from practical life. They make you infinitely more effective at living it. The masters who preserved this knowledge did so because they knew this moment would come. They knew that eventually humanity would be ready to understand that we are not separate from the creative force of the universe. We are expressions of it. Your awakening isn't a personal achievement. It's humanity waking up through you. Every person who begins to live consciously raises the frequency for everyone. Your transformation contributes to the collective evolution. The ancient future is becoming the present reality. What seemed like magic to previous generations is now understood as the natural operation of consciousness, working with universal principles. You have everything you need. The map has been given to you. The path is clear. Your new reality begins with your next thought, your next choice, your next conscious action. The question isn't whether you're ready. The question is, are you willing? Nobody